G'day guys, Lindemann here in X-Plane 10 once again, this time flying over Indonesia in my Cessna C210. The difference here is I'm actually running plugins now, not plugins, mods. So I've got different clouds, got an HDR pack, and you can see that the clouds are kind of really come alive beneath me here, shrouding these islands and the mountains on them. I'm running them also at a higher level, so I think I've got 100% clouds set, so my GPU is being melted a little bit, and you can see that in the bottom left hand corner my frame rate is sitting anywhere from about 20 to 40 at certain times, depending on the number of clouds that I'm looking at. Just at time accelerating over this area because I don't have a lot of time, and going into a bit of a climb as I've just gone past a mountain on this island. So just adjusting my altitude now and putting in a descent as we start to set up for an approach on this island airstrip, which is where I'm going to next. After going across Indonesia, my next plans are to make it probably to around East Timor, somewhere like that, and then make the jump across to mainland Australia, and then head off to somewhere like Alice Springs or the East Coast. I'm not really sure exactly where I'm going to go, but I'm going to take this plane in Flight Simulator Economy, somewhere where I can park it in a home base and add it to the collection of planes in the airline and start renting it out. After that, I'm going to probably switch over to use the Cessna 208 that Strategic Airlines owns, and we can start using that. You can see another very large mountain there in the distance just poking out. So just making sure that I'm not going to hit that. I'll actually divert my course off to the right to kind of bypass that and dogleg around it. So you can see the ground textures look pretty good. I mean, the problem with the ground textures is mostly that they are very uniform across the entire planet, same with a lot of the assets. So you can go all around the world and have it look kind of the same. So hopefully they'll add some extra assets in a future update. But I've upgraded my RAM to 2400 megahertz RAM, and I'm overclocking the CPU and the GPU, my GTX 680 4GB video memory. So I'm getting pretty good performance. The main thing with the faster RAM, and I got 16 gigabytes of RAM now, is that the frame rate dip is a lot less. I used to get very inconsistent frame rates where it would be up and down all over the place. The other thing I've added is a video capture card, so I'm actually capturing this and compressing it in real time to H.264 compression format, so full HD, and there's no stress on the computer from recording fraps, or no stress on the hard drive from writing massive raw video files which I need to compress at a later stage. It's all done on the fly now, and I've seen the video recording is going at about I think 10 minutes of gameplay worked out to be a gigabyte or two, so very small, whereas that would have been about 40 or 50 gigabytes previously. So it makes it a lot easier to record a lot of material and stream it online quite nicely. Okay, so here's a very large mountain on the left here. The contours look pretty realistic from what I saw on the maps. The only difference is that the textures don't really reflect that this is a big rocky mountain. You can't really see much of it, it's just covered in trees, but it does look quite nice. We'll get nice and close to it so we can do a bit of sightseeing past this mountain. Now I do have trees also set to the maximum level, as well as objects set to the maximum level, so there is a lot of trees down there. Okay, just taking in that mountain off to the left. Now I've had to be quite careful managing my fuel as I stop off at airfields, because some of them don't have fuel and some of them are quite far from other airfields, so it's a bit tricky. Typically refueling up to 100%, sometimes with passengers, sometimes just doing flights solo, just to get the airplane across to the next airfield and continue on in my progress. It does look quite a bit nicer, I think, with the HDR pack that I've got loaded. It's replaced the clouds that you see there, the actual art assets which are used to form the shape of the clouds has been replaced. I've also replaced the skyline. It's probably a little bit too blue, perhaps, and it's also made it. It's replaced the shaders, so it's adding a bit of HDR effects in there. The other thing I added was high resolution runway textures, so I've got a bunch of them, and that really increases the quality up close of the runways. You can see, the real paint marks, etc. Okay, just skipping forward a bit here, you can see the colour of the ocean. I've turned the reflections up to maximum, and the colour of the ocean is really kind of coming through, reflecting the ground beneath it in different ways. There's one problem with the ocean which I hope they fix at some point, which is if you look straight down, the water is green. So if you've got to explain, you can check that out, and you'll know what I mean. It doesn't matter where you are, if you look straight down, the water is kind of greenish, and it progressively gets more green the more you look down, whereas it should probably look more blue-grey, or definitely blue in some tropical areas. Okay, just bouncing into some cloud here, and we'll be getting ready to make my descent. Alright, so making my turn, I've done a bit of a spiral down to lose the altitude through the clouds whilst out at sea, and now I'm coming in on, or heading towards the final approach, direct visual in on this island in Indonesia. You can get a real view of the water reflections and the water detail coming up here, as well as some of that HDR kicking in with the light blue skyline, the dark blue water. It's kind of all part of that modification which I've just dropped in, and you can have a look at, I'll add a link in the description if you want to download these packs. I'll link it to my blog on the subject so you can see it there, but certainly no effect on frame rate that I've seen. There's the airfield way off in the distance. I'm almost lined up, just not quite. So starting just editing my approach there, and skipping forward, you can see that the extreme number of trees is kicking in again. We can see that we've got like rows of trees, possibly an orchard, or probably not forestry, but something like that. So lots of rows of trees there, and pretty busy. The only thing that's really missing is some airport detail. And here comes the high-res textures on the airfield, so you can have a look here and see that the paintwork, the kind of asphalt look of the airfield is much higher than normal. So just kind of adjusting my approach here, up and down. You can see we're getting bobbed around a wee bit in this light plane. Alright, so coming down, doing a flare. Alright, and landing with power off, and we're down. Alright, my name's Lindemann, on my way to Australia. Thanks for watching.